What's up, guys? Jordan McAbee here, fantasyracingonline.com, home of the Slingshot Fantasy Auto Contest, and today we're going to talk about Atlanta. Quaker State 400, going back to Atlanta, second time this year. So if you remember back to March, we had the first Atlanta race of 2021. Kyle Larson absolutely dominated it. Ryan Blaney got him late, was able to manage his tires a little bit better. Plus, Kyle Larson got a little held up by Blaney's teammate, Joey Logano. But Larson clearly had the best car in that race. Looking at green flag speed, Kurt Busch was number one there, but he did wreck. He got wrecked by Denny Hamlin on one of the restarts. Kyle Larson at 170.122. Blaney was almost a half mile an hour slower than Larson on green flag speed, but still the second best car that day. Kyle Busch was solid, Hamlin solid, Bowman, who finished third, was solid. Pretty much all the people we expected other than Kevin Harvick. So if you remember back to that race, that was very early in the season before people really got on the, Kevin Harvick isn't good this year or isn't what we expect this year. So bit of a surprise. He did have a tire issue early. He was able to rebound. He finished 10th. It's still Kevin Harvick. It's still Atlanta Motor Speedway. But definitely not the dominating performance that we expected. A lot of people actually expected what Kyle Larson did that race, Harvick would have done. It was the expectation for a lot of people going into that Sunday. As far as average running position from the first Atlanta race this year, Kyle Larson average running position of 1.2, Ryan Blaney 2.7, Alex Bowman 4.8, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, William Byron, all solid. Matt DiBenedetto was good. He ended up finishing 11th, but he ran a better race than that. Martin Truex Jr., Austin Dillon, and Chris Buescher. Now, this weekend, we have Chase Elliott on the pole, thanks to his win at Road America last week, followed by Kyle Busch, Hamlin, Bell. So 4 JGR cars, actually. Truex is starting 5th, and then Kyle Larson starting 6th. Larson also started 6th. In the first race here this season. He ended up leading 200 and let me get the official number here. Larson led 269 laps. Nice. Of the 325 that race. Also started 6th in that race. So not a huge concern. As far as, guys starting further back that will make great place differential plays, and we'll get into this as we talk more about building a lineup for Slingshot this week. We have Kevin Harvick starting 21st, William Byron starting 19th, Alex Bowman starting 17th, Ryan Blaney starting 15th. I think this is going to be a really fun race that you can put together a lot of solid lineups this week. And maybe not even have to have Larson in it. Obviously Larson is going to be the favorite this week. He should win it, just based on what we've seen all season, what we saw at Atlanta earlier this year. But as far as the Slingshot game goes, it might be advantageous to not go with him, and kind of get a more 4 solid drivers into your lineup as opposed to just 3 with Larson. But obviously, he could go out just like he did in the first race this year and win both stages and win the race. So that's going to be a big points day in this Slingshot game if that happens. Let's take a look at the algorithm predicted finishing order. No surprise, it's got Kyle Larson projected to win. Kyle Busch second, Denny Hamlin third, Alex Bowman fourth, Martin Truex Jr. a little bit higher than I expected, but does have Truex fifth. Harvick, Byron, Blaney, Elliott, and Logano rounding out the top 10. Pretty much what we expect. There's a few guys down here that I think are a little bit lower ranked than they should be. Tyler Reddick, Ross Chastain, I think they have higher potential than that. Definitely Matt DiBenedetto, Christopher Bell. You can make cases for all these. This is just kind of where the algorithm has them ranked. Because there is a lot of good cars above these guys that you could also make the case for those to finish up front as well. But really, I think we're looking solidly at Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch. Alex Bowman's really good here. Denny Hamlin's really good here. Ryan Blaney's really good here. So I think those are going to be our main top 5 contenders. But you never know how a race can play out. On the Stacking Denny's podcast this week, if you haven't listened yet, take a shot. It's RotoDoc and I talking about NASCAR every single week. we talked extensively about Atlanta this week, not only the repave coming up after this race, but this race specifically. And I'm really excited for this race, especially, for DraftKings and DFS purposes. But I think it's going to be a really good race. And like I said, I think there can be a lot of different lineup, just how this starting lineup is set. I think it's going to be a very fun fantasy NASCAR week. So make sure you check that out. It's on all major platforms: Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, anywhere you can find it. I post it on the website as well, fantasyracingonline.com. Make sure you check that out. Our podcast, it just launched a few weeks ago, so still building it up, but having a real good time doing it and gotten pretty good feedback from you guys as well on it. So thanks for that. Let's take a look at, we're in the 550 horsepower package this week. So we have raced at several 1.5 mile intermediates in this package. We've only raced at Atlanta and Homestead when it comes to high wear tracks with this package though. So let me open this real quick. Okay. My little cheat sheet over here. So we went through the loop data from Atlanta. So let's take a look at Homestead here. Now obviously Homestead earlier this year, it was a later night race. It was went from basically dusk till into night. And William Byron ended up, leading the most and, winning the race, but there were some surprises out there. So Kurt Busch had the best green flag speed as well in that race. William Byron was second. Brad Keselowski, I think he had an issue late. I know Kurt Busch had an issue late and had to pit for tires. Still ended up finishing 8th. Truex, Larson, Buescher. Buescher's been really solid in this package this year and on the high wear track, so definitely someone you could look at this week. Logano, Harvick, Austin Dillon again, and Alex Bowman rounding out the top 10 when it comes to green flag speed at Homestead. Average running position at Homestead this year: William Byron first, Kyle Larson second, Truex third, Kurt Busch, Brad Keselowski top 5, Harvick, Buescher, Bowman, Austin Dillon, Ryan Newman. Really, it doesn't change a whole lot once these guys get up front. We're not going to see a ton of change. The fastest cars are going to make their way to the front, and they're pretty much going to stay there unless they have an issue. Now, when it comes to Atlanta, we see tire issues. We've seen, we don't see too many wrecks, but mechanical issues and tire issues are definitely something to kind of keep in the back of your mind here. Obviously, you can't predict those very well, but they happen here, and they can ruin your day or they can make your day great. I've been on both sides of that coin there at Atlanta Motor Speedway, but this is a very abrasive racetrack, really eats the tires, and drivers really have to manage their tires. So those that are better at managing their tires are going to be faster on a long run. And, if the race goes green like we expect it to for a lot of it, that's going to be very advantageous for them in the longer run to get a good finish. We saw it in the first race. We saw Blaney manage his tires better than Kyle Larson late and ended up winning the race. So tires definitely important, and how the driver preserves them is equally important. Another thing to note about Atlanta this week is we're in July, and we haven't raced at Atlanta in July since like 1974 or something crazy. It's going to be hot. It's going to be slick. And that just adds in another kind of unknown variable, how these cars are going to react, and how these tires are going to react to such heat. I think last I checked, it was supposed to be in the mid 90s. It's going to be super hot, not only in the race cars, but just for the race cars. The track's going to be super hot. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Obviously the drivers that love to slip and slide around, like Kyle Larson, are going to have an advantage this weekend when it comes to Atlanta and, finishing well. One more high wear racetrack that we have been at this year is Darlington. Now, they ran the 750 horsepower package here, so it's not, you're not comparing apples to apples, but at the same time, it's a mile and a third track. I think it's like 1.3 something. And again, it's the high wear. Truex absolutely dominated that race, had an average running position of 1.5. Hamlin, Logano, Byron, Reddick again, solid. Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, the top 10 when it came to average running position at Darlington this year. Again, Ryan Newman had a solid race. Chris Buescher had a solid race. Those are great underdogs / sleepers that you could kind of hitch your wagon to this week. Both have solid records at Atlanta as well. When it comes to green flag speed, you can throw Eric Almirola's speed out there. I think he wrecked earlier. Something happened early. When he's 3 miles an hour faster in green flag speed, obviously something that's the bad part of looking about green flag speed. When there's an early wreck, is typically those guys show up a lot better than they actually were. But Truex, Larson, Hamlin, Byron, Logano were top 5 in green flag speed at Darlington, followed by Kyle Busch, Blaney, Bell, Harvick, and Reddick, rounding out the top 10. So a lot of the same guys. We're hearing Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney, solid. Harvick's pretty good this year. Those are the guys that should be the real contenders this weekend at Atlanta in the second race. So so here is the 5 races in the 550 horsepower package on intermediate track this season. So a cumulative look at that data. So we had Homestead, Las Vegas, Atlanta, Kansas, and Charlotte. So this is looking at those 5 races. Best average running position over those 5 races is Kyle Larson at 2.6. The guy's just absolutely dominant. Like, there's no reason for him to not be the favorite this week. You can't no one can possibly make an argument to me that Kyle Larson shouldn't be the favorite this week. He's that good this year, and it's not going to change unless he has a mechanical issue, which we can't predict. There's no reason why he shouldn't win this race on Sunday, or at least finish top 3. Like, to me, it's basically a guarantee unless something weird happens. Second best in this package this season in the 5 intermediate track races, William Byron at 6.0. We got Kyle Busch 8.1, Denny Hamlin 8.4, Truex 9.5, and we got Bowman up there at 10.2. When we look at average finish over those 5 races, Kyle Busch, best average finish of 4.4. Kyle Larson, 5.4. Let me check I forget what race is bringing Larson down. Okay, he finished 19th at Kansas, which he should have won that race. But that was the whole, tire debacle, and then Larson getting shuffled back, and I don't remember if he hit the wall or whatever happened. But obviously, Larson should have won that race. He had the best car again, didn't get the win. But William Byron, 6.0 average finish. Hamlin, 7.6. Austin Dillon, 9.2. Very solid for him. Kevin Harvick, 9.4. Truex, 10.6. Chris Buescher, I've been mentioning him quite often, 11.2. And then Keselowski at 12.0. It's interesting. You'll see this week. Penske has really struggled in this package, especially Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano. And it's hard to make sense of it. Blaney is a lot better, especially at high wear tracks, but he's struggled as well over the races. So that's something to keep an eye on this week when it comes to these, like Ryan Blaney, who's really good at Atlanta, or Brad Keselowski, who is not really good, but he's good at Atlanta. He's typically a solid top 10 threat. He might not get there this weekend because that Penske organization just seems down a little bit this year. Shifting over to, looking at Atlanta, we're looking at the last 3 races here. So 2019, 2020, 2021, the first race. These are the 3 races that they've raced in this 550 horsepower package. So Larson's only ran 2 of them, but most people have ran all 3. Average running position, Kyle Larson, number 1, 3.7. Second best, Martin Truex Jr., 5.1. Like I said, Ryan Blaney, he's third best. He's very good at this track. Average running position is 6.5. Denny Hamlin's up there, 6.8. Kyle Busch, 7.0. Kevin Harvick, who used to just absolutely, he'd be a shoo-in. He'd be what Kyle Larson is now. Used to be Kevin Harvick at Atlanta. It'd just be, he's going to dominate this race, and that's all we can do about it. Just plug him in. It's just like how he was at Phoenix, for those 5 years or whatever, where he just win after win after win after win. That's how Harvick used to be here at Atlanta. Now that I think that that crown's gone to Larson, but this is probably, this might be the last race since they are repaving it after this this event this weekend. So there's the average running position going to average finish over these 3 races. Kyle Busch, really solid, 4.3. Martin Truex Jr., 4.7. Kevin Harvick, 5.0. Denny Hamlin, 6.7. Got Larson in there at 7.0 and Ryan Blaney at 9.0. And then Alex Bowman, 10.0. So like I said, we'll go right into the picks here. As far as, drivers to target this week, looking at the guys that are in the plus $10,000 range, there's basically 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 guys that I think you need to make picks on, picking 3 of them. I think you have to have 3 of these guys in your slingshot lineup this week. And while you can make an argument for going outside of these guys, I think the place differential and the finish potential that all 5 of these guys have this weekend just can't be beat. So now to me, in my mind, these are the best and the safest, best overall and the safest when it comes to this slingshot game. I'm not going to be looking at anyone outside of these 5. I'm going to pick 3 of them and then build the rest of my lineup like that. And those 5 drivers are Kyle Larson, obviously. He should win the race. He starts 6th. Not a ton of place differential, but he can easily win both stages. He can win this race. Kevin Harvick, he starts 21st. His record here is incredible. He should be at least top 10, if not top 5. That team's finally starting to get things, back going. Should be, a great place differential play and a finish play. William Byron doesn't have the greatest track record here at Atlanta, but he, outside of road courses, he is pretty much unstoppable this season. So I'm not going to bet against him. He's starting 19th. Again, he has great place differential potential. He could easily finish top 5. Definitely, I think, top 10 contender. Very solid pick. And then Ryan Blaney, he won here earlier this year. He starts 15th, so he can move up. He has a very solid record at Atlanta. Yes, I have a little bit of concern for what Penske's doing right now and how they're struggling in this package, but it's hard to argue against Blaney. He has his tracks that he's really good at, and even when his organization is struggling, he still does good at those tracks. So it's hard for me to bet against Blaney this week, especially at that $10,900 price range or price point in this slingshot game. Starting 15th, he should have top 5 potential, if not potentially race winning potential again. I just said potential like 7 times. Anyway, you got it. Very solid pick. And then Alex Bowman. My algorithm absolutely loves him. Has him projected to finish 4th. He starts 17th. He's 10,700. There is very little chance that Alex Bowman isn't in my lineup this weekend. He's just very good, and I'm not gonna. I rarely go against what my algorithm says. So those 5 guys, I think you need to pick between. I think you need to pick 3 of them, at least 2 of them. I think you at least need to have 2 of those guys. I would probably go the route of 3. You might not be able to fit in, Larson with Larson. You're definitely not gonna be able to fit Larson, Harvick, Byron without digging down deep. I don't think you should dig down deep into the Josh Belickis or anything, but there's value in some of these lower dollar guys. So take a look at Ryan Preece. He starts 34th. Let's take a look at his record here at Atlanta specifically. You basically, for what you're paying for him, you just need a mid-20s finish. So you look at what Ryan Preece has done, 25th earlier this year, 26th last year. If he's starting 34th, that's a pretty solid points day, out of him in this slingshot game. And he's $6,600. So that allows you to afford Kyle Larson, who's $12,500 and starts 6th, so it's a little bit riskier, but makes it a little bit easier because, Ryan Preece should definitely move up to the mid-20s, which is going to be solid value for that $6,600 price point in the slingshot game. Other guys that I think are very solid picks, obviously Ryan Newman, he starts 29th. He should be, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he's top 15 this week. So take a look at his Atlanta record here, 13th, 14th, and 13th in the last 3 years. Just very solid. Even earlier this year, he started 28th. He still ended up 13th. When you take a look at Newman in this 550 package, he 7th at Homestead, 13th at Atlanta, 16th at Kansas, 18th at Vegas. If he gets a top 20, that's a very solid points day in the Slingshot game. Yes, he's a little pricey at $8,200, but he has that place differential. Starting 29th, he can definitely make that price worth it this week, especially if you go like Alex Bowman, Ryan Blaney, and Kyle Larson, leaves you $15,900 on the table. You throw Ryan Newman on there, you can get a Daniel Suarez, who has been solid here at Atlanta in the past. He was 17th earlier this year. Yes, he finished 17th earlier this year, 10th in stage 2. He had a top 10 here when he was with Stuart Haas, finished 15th here in 2018. And that allows you to put a lineup together like that, where you got Larson, Blaney, Bowman, Newman, Suarez. If you didn't want to go, if you wanted to, grab Harvick for that, that would give you enough cap space to come up and instead of Bowman, go Byron, or instead of Blaney, go Byron. And go with that Harvick again. The 3 of the 5 that I mentioned, between Larson, Harvick, Byron, Bowman, and Blaney. And you don't have to dig deep down, into the Bailey Currys or BJ McLeod. Like, there's no reason to go that deep. They're not going to finish well at Atlanta unless there's a bunch of wrecks, which typically doesn't happen. About as deep as I'd go, I don't mind Ryan Preece. I'm always going to have a soft spot for Corey Lejoy. He's one of my favorite drivers. He starts 26, so it's super risky, but that team is running very well right now. Let's take a look at his record here at Atlanta specifically before we look at what he's done overall. Not very good at Atlanta, never finished better than 27th, but I really like what that team is doing right now, and I don't think enough people are giving them credit. 21st at Road America, 23rd at Pocono, 15th at Nashville, 18th at Sonoma, 19th at Charlotte, 20th at Coda. Like, that team is running very well right now. Like, and these aren't like, you can't have like fake finishes. Like, you can't get lucky 6 weeks in a row, 7 weeks in a row. Like, this team is running well. Corey Lejoy is running well. Corey Lejoy is a very good driver, and after a very rough start to the season and a bunch of mechanical issues, I think they finally got it figured out. And I know he's helped a lot of people win a lot of money on DraftKings this year. Definitely, I think, an underrated fantasy NASCAR guy this week. But at the same time, he starts 26th. Super risky with his record here at Atlanta, but I like the potential for LaJoy. Don't think I'm going to pick him this week, but I don't hate him. You got Anthony Alfredo starting 32nd. How did he do here earlier this year? That's another guy that I think kind of gets he was 27th earlier this year. He's probably going to run about the same 27th this weekend. Would probably rather go Priest, but if you want to save $400 and go Alfredo, typically Alfredo doesn't wreck, so there's room there for him to kind of survive and finish mid-20s as a low-dollar guy. One interesting driver is Michael McDowell. So you take a look at the 550 horsepower intermediate tracks this year. 6th at Homestead, 17th at Vegas, 19th at Atlanta, 13th at Kansas, 20th at Charlotte. He starts 25th this weekend. You have to like those numbers out of McDowell. Now, when it comes to Atlanta specifically, finished 19th earlier this year. That's his best career finish at this track. You have to kind of weigh it, like he's finished 24th or better in 3 of the last 4. So he's that front row car is pretty decent now that he's behind the wheel and this is his 4th year, I guess, with it. Can he get a top 20? I think it's possible. He's just a low dollar option this week if you want to take a chance. But like I said, safer options are definitely Ryan Preece or even Anthony Alfredo in that range. I'd probably put McDowell ahead of Alfredo, even though McDowell starts 7 spots better than Alfredo. Looking at the rest of the lineup, you can obviously go. Spoke about Chris Buescher earlier. If you didn't want to go Newman, I think a lot of people are going to like Ryan Newman this week, which, with his record and where he starts, it makes a lot of sense. Chris Buescher, if you remember back to Homestead, he dominated the first part of that race, and it wasn't a fluke. Like, they had the best car in the early part of that race. Once the sun went down, his car turned to junk. But Chris Buescher, he 19th in the first Homestead in Homestead this year, 14th at Vegas, 7th in the first Atlanta race, 8th at Kansas, and 8th at Charlotte. He starts 18th, which makes him risky, but definitely I'd say there's upside there. And how could you not? Looking at 2 of the last 3 races here at Atlanta, he's finished top 10. Definitely, let's take a look at what Buescher's done for us recently. As far as finishes. So 18th at Road America, 19th at Pocono, 20th at Pocono, about a mid-teens driver. But like I said, the other mile-and-a-half tracks this year, yes, they're low wear. Buescher has been solid. He was 9th at Darlington. That's just another hey, he's probably a good pick this week. Or maybe not a good pick, but like a sneaky pick, if you want to get off that Newman. Even Ricky Stenhouse Jr., which, by the way, my algorithm really likes Ricky Stenhouse Jr., hasn't projected to finish 14th. You look at the 550 horsepower intermediate tracks or intermediate races this season, and Stenhouse 13th at Homestead, 11th at Vegas, 12th at Atlanta, 12th at Charlotte. Is there enough upside there with him starting 16th? He's probably going to need to sneak into the top 10 for that price point in this game to be worth it. But, you look at the last 6 races here, he's finished 12th, 13th, 18th, 16th, 13th, and 10th. A couple lucky breaks, and he could easily find himself in the top 10 this week. So there's so many good options this week. We didn't even, like Austin Dillon. Another, he's been very good on this track type. I think he's a little too pricey in this game. But, definitely my recommendation, pick 3 between Larson, Harvick, Byron, Blaney, and Bowman, and then fill out the rest of your lineup. And I think, you're going to have a good points day in this game. Make sure you check out Stacking Denny's, the podcast. Like I said, it drops every Wednesday. This week's episode, we talked extensively about Atlanta. I think you'll really enjoy it if you haven't listened yet. And make sure you check out my second video coming out. It'll come out after this one, where it's more for DraftKings, but I break down the entire all 37 drivers in this race and talk about them from a fantasy perspective, and not just focusing on the slingshot and just where my strategy is this week when it comes to that game. Really breaking down. Like I said, I think this is going to be a really fun race. I'm really looking forward to this race. I like Atlanta. I think this race is going to be fun just with how the starting lineup is set and all the options we have in fantasy NASCAR, and hopefully we all have good weeks, and everything goes kind of as planned. But that's going to wrap this video up. Like I said, check out that other stuff. Good luck this weekend at Atlanta. We're already into this is race 21 already. We're chugging right along with this 2021 season. So good luck. We'll talk to you next week with New Hampshire. See ya.